Okay, now we're going to show you how to make a charcoal poultice. Here in the West, people are so oriented to putting something in their mouth, a drug, an herb, all kinds of supplements or whatever, and as good as those can be, putting a charcoal poultice or any kind of poultice, an herbal poultice or whatever, still seems a little foreign. And a lot of times people don't think it's going to be quite as effective as taking something orally. But actually, charcoal poultices or other types of poultices can be extremely effective. And so I'm going to have Jose step up here. And he has helped us out by banging up both arms here. But we're going to do this one right here. It's just a little scab. And at this point, it really doesn't need a charcoal poultice. But when he had first done it, it definitely could have put one on. We've used it for numerous things, all kinds of wounds. And so here we're just going to show you how to make a very simple charcoal poultice. All we're going to be using, here we use a detox we're taking orally, but we're going to use the hardwood for this one. And the hardwood is really ideal for the charcoal poultices. So anyway, we're going to just take a glass here, and I have my water and my ground flaxseed. Okay, I'm going to put 1/4 cup of water, and this is an actual recipe. 1/4 cup of water into the glass, and then I'm going to take, whoops, excuse me, not that yet. I'm going to take 2 tablespoons of the activated charcoal powder. Okay. And now, this doesn't have to be real exact, okay? So just put there and put it down slowly. I don't know, you probably didn't see that, but it puffed out a little bit. Okay. And just do that nice and slow. Okay. Now it's a good idea to cover this up because if anybody bumps the table or a dog jumps up and knocks it off, we don't want to have charcoal powder flying all over the place. Okay, so shut that up always. And another reason why you want to always shut the charcoal powder, not just because it's messy, but the charcoal will actually start absorbing odors and any kind of, hopefully not, but chemicals in the air and such like that. The charcoal will actually last indefinitely, okay, if you keep it covered. We've had instances of people that had jars of charcoal that were like 30 years old and used it and worked just fine. Okay, there we go. And now we're just going to put the ground flaxseed in. So could you just use charcoal and water? Yes, you could. And if you're in an emergency type situation and you didn't have anything else to put in there with it, do it. But the reason that we're actually adding the ground flaxseed is because it will not only make a nice gel and a little easier to work with, but it'll actually keep the charcoal poultice more moist. And the reason that we want to keep the charcoal poultice moist is because activated charcoal has more drying power when it's wet. Okay, so now we're just going to stir it. And we want it to be a nice gel. We don't want it too wet, and we don't want it too dry either. So I'm going to keep stirring it. The temptation is to just, well, oh, it's kind of moist, it's a little wet. I'm just going to add a little more flaxseed. That's rather a mistake because if you would just keep stirring it, it will gel up, and oftentimes if you start adding more of the ground flaxseed, it'll get too dry. But if you did that, no problem, just add a little bit more water till you get a nice consistency. Now this is a nice consistency. It's not too runny, it's just kind of like a blob, and that's just perfect. Okay, so now we're just going to take a paper towel. Any kind of paper towel will work. If you didn't have paper towels, you can just use some cheesecloth or some very thin cotton material and just cut it to the appropriate size. Now for something about this size, I'm just going to make a little larger than it actually needs, just to give you the idea. But you can make the poultices any size you want. Now, actually, the more charcoal you use, the better, really. We always used to tell people that you can use too little, but you really can't use too much. Too little that it really wouldn't be effective. Okay, so there we go. Spread it out like that. And now I'm just going to fold the north side down, the east side, the west, and now the south. Okay. Now that's nice and moist. This, you can see this, okay? It's not dripping, okay? It's not dripping, but it's going to be a nice wet contact. And so this, if I put this on just before Jose went to bed, this is still going to be moist. Now, what if I made it and it was a little bit dry? Then I would just lay it down and just dribble a little bit of water on it and just take another, whoops, excuse me, paper towel and just kind of pat it down, and that would be all I'd have to do. Okay, so now I'm going to lay it right on him, and I'll just ask you, do you mind just holding that down just a little bit for me? Now we're going to want to have to cover this so it will stay moist, and also just to protect the poultice itself from dripping or whatever. So I'm going to put a piece of plastic over it. Now this is a piece of plastic that I cut from a shopping bag. You can use a Target bag, any kind of grocery plastic bag that they use nowadays. Or of course you could use any kind of plastic food wrap. The reason that I like using the plastic bags, it's just another way of recycling them, of course, but I can just crumple this up and it will still just work just fine. Whereas I get frustrated sometimes with the food wraps. They stick together and sometimes they can be quite clumsy. And I just love the fact that I can just make a bunch of these ahead of time. Now I cut this just a little bit larger than I knew the poultice would be, and I just place that right on, and Jose holds it. And then, excuse me, I'm just going to grab my thing here. Now, I have two kinds here. They're both the stretchy, stick-to-yourself Band-Aids. This one I got like at Target or any kind of pharmacy, whatever, would always have these. And you know, they're not exactly the cheapest, but they're so convenient. Now this one I got at a farm and feed store, and they use this on horses primarily, or cows, whatever, and it's a lot cheaper, and they come in all kinds of fun colors, so I think we'll just use this one for now. So all we're going to do is just wrap them up. Oops, okay, now you can let go. I've got it. And it's so interesting with this animal wrap. Well, at least where I buy it, it comes in all different sizes, but they charge me the same price for the same length and width, which I think is absolutely amazing. So that's it. And then I'm just going to cut it. And like I said, it will stick to itself. Of course, if you didn't have this kind of, you know, convenient wrap like this, of course you could just cut strips of cotton and wrap it as well. So anyway, that is it. Now we're going to show you just how simple this is one more time. And we're going to have Jose do a poultice on John. So John's going to come up here, and I'll just help Jose. I'll just walk him through as he does it. So anyway, there you go. Take the glass. You got some water. And so we're going to start with what? 1/4 of a cup of water, right?
Yep.
Okay. Put that in the, there you go. And then the charcoal. How much?
2
Yep.
tablespoons.
Just paying attention. Oh, you're lefty, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I got a left paw here. And so we want to be careful how we put that charcoal powder into the glass because it goes poof all over. Okay, and then we want to put that lid on as soon as possible so we don't have any little casualties. Okay, that's it. And now we want to, okay, go ahead, do another one. But on this one, we don't want to have, we want to be more careful. On the charcoal, it's not as important to have a level tablespoon, but we want it to be a level when we're using the ground flaxseed because we don't want to get too much in there. Oh, don't worry about that. That's fine, that happens. So now he's just going to stir it up until he gets a nice consistency. And we just stir, stir, stir. Okay. Have you ever made a charcoal poultice before?
No.
No? Okay. So there's always something new to learn. But you probably have had a charcoal poultice on you before, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When was the last time?
About 2 years ago.
Oh yeah? What was that for?
Just for demonstration.
Okay, but not for an actual reason.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, I actually do charcoal poultices quite often. I make them for my hubby's eyes or for myself. And okay, so yeah, we've got this little charcoal right there. So let's kind of just wipe it up just a little bit because it's going to get all over. Okay. Okay, now I'll do another one and we'll just...
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That looks good.
Okay, and what is your problem, John?
Oh, I got a bad arm.
Well, what's
Real
bad
arm.
about it?
Well, I was running too fast and I fell down and did a 3-point landing and on my elbow, my arm, and my knee. But so I got this really bad brush burn on my arm and I wasn't paying attention and it got infected. And it turned all red and inflamed. So I thought, well, maybe let's try a charcoal poultice. And it worked. It took away the inflammation and took away the irritation and the pain.
Okay, very
Okay.
good.
Okay? Okay, let me hold it for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Plastic, you got that? Okay.
We could probably cut that plastic down a little bit if you wanted to.
Well,
or-
just drop it around. That's it.
And do you want to use the blue or?
I'd rather use this one.
Want to use that?
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Could you hold it here?
Okay.
There you go. So he did ask John to hold it, which is really helpful.
Okay, got it. There you go. There, you're off.
There we go.
Mhm,
And so we
very
just
good.
want to make sure that we have it on nice and snug, but not too tight. We don't want to cut off any circulation.
Now this could have been a nasty bite from a snake. And in fact, one of the first things I learned from the Dr. Graves was he used it on his own son when they were out hiking. John got bitten by a rattlesnake. And here we have a medical doctor in the first thing he looked for was charcoal. And John told me that the swelling was taken care of. They used, I think, some other herbs as well. Well, that feels pretty good. Well, Dr. Jose, thank you very much for helping us. Why don't we exit here?
Okay. So very simple. That is how you make a charcoal poultice. And I know that we use the Detox 1600 for taking internally, and we use the hardwood for making the poultice. And if people were to call us, that would be basically what we would recommend if they would be willing to purchase both of them. But if you're in an emergency type situation, if you have hardwood, if you have coconut shell charcoal or bamboo or whatever, just use the charcoal. Don't worry about, oh, it's not coconut shell, that's for internal use or anything like that. Just use the charcoal. When we've been in Africa and such like that, the people are using charcoal made from the woods that they have. It's not activated and it still works. What we didn't mention is that generally when we do make a charcoal poultice for someone or give them charcoal to drink, we generally often always have prayer with them, because really the greatest natural remedy, the most wonderful natural remedy in the whole planet, the whole universe, is prayer. And we just ask our divine physician to bless these simple remedies, but we know that ultimately any healing, true healing, comes from him. And that's it.
Well, here we've demonstrated just a few applications of charcoal, drinking it internally, applying as a poultice. We've actually had comments from many people that when charcoal didn't work internally, that the charcoal poultice on the outside actually worked better. So it's a matter of experimenting. There are no formulas that we use. It's mostly a matter of trial and error, what works for you and what you have available. We've used activated charcoal, but again, we've worked in Africa and India where there was no activated charcoal available. What were we going to use? Well, we used what the people had. They had charcoal that they cook with. We would take it, as I mentioned earlier, grind it up, sift it through a small flour sifter and so forth until we had a very fine powder, and we would use that. And that's what we taught when we were in Uganda and Kenya and India and here in America sometimes. We have other things that we sometimes demonstrate, but in our next class, what we're going to do is demonstrate a host of different things. How to use a light bulb for a sinus congestion, how to use a hot foot bath for maybe a headache, and so forth. And so we hope that you'll join us for that and get a broader understanding of natural remedies. It's not just charcoal. There are many other beautiful remedies out there that God's given to us that we can use wherever you happen to live in this beautiful world. Well, thanks for joining us, and come back again and watch these other videos on how to make a hot foot bath for somebody who has a headache.